Take two. Um, Hi, my name is Zeke. I recording this to get comfortable with recording me saying things, which is something I did before, but I haven't done it in a really long time. But when I did it before, it was more around uh, for educational purposes. I was recording videos about how to code, but I don't do that anymore. That was a really long time ago. Um, but yes, I'm gonna try to do this in one take because I don't really like editing videos, or maybe it was just the way I was editing that I didn't like. But yeah, I'm gonna do this more free flow form, just to, like, get used to this. So the topic of the day is autism. I am not diagnosed. Sorry, I probably shouldn't be filming this because it's probably making noise. I noticed my microphone is very sensitive. Um, yes. So talking about autism, I'm not diagnosed. I but I am pretty sure that I am on the spectrum, and I will tell you that story now. So I think it's been 3 years, because I think it was in 2020. It is now 2023, so that makes sense. It was deep into the pandemic. Was home all the time, not going anywhere, and my wife at the time showed me, or was talking to me about her friend who had posted on Facebook that she had been diagnosed with autism. And she, and my wife was just like, oh, I never thought she was autistic. She never seemed like that to me. But then she was saying, like, oh, but she posted that, autism doesn't get diagnosed women as much, until recently. And I don't know, for some reason that really piqued my interest, and I was like, oh, autism, what's that? Or I kind of knew what autism was, but not really. Um, but so I started, and I'd always kind of felt weird about, like, autism as portrayed in movies and things. I thought it was, I don't know why, I always got like a weird vibe, especially when, I don't know why. But so then I was like, I was really bored during the pandemic, so I was like, well, this is something to do. And so I started researching autism and kind of went down this like rabbit hole. And I realized, well, so first I was like, they were describing like autistic traits, and I was like, doesn't everyone do that? Was like my first reaction. It's like, this is just normal people stuff. And like, I'm like that. and then I was like, oh, oh no. And then yeah, I was like deeper and deeper into it, and I really started like associating with the people and the experiences they were having, and I was like, do I have autism? Yeah, and then I kind of went on this whole tear, and yeah, kind of pretty conclusively determined that I probably have autism as well, um, which was uh, in a lot of ways like really refreshing because it was like I always felt like there was this piece missing of me that I didn't understand, or I was like, what is it about me that I feel like I'm off, and I don't know how to, uh, like pinpoint what it is, but I can tell that like I don't fit in with people the way other people fit in with each other, and it always kind of, yeah, I always struggled with that, and it was like finally I found the missing piece, and it was like, click, and I was like, oh, that makes so many things make so much sense. Like when I think about, experiences I had as a kid, experiences, yeah, and all of my life, interactions, weird interactions I had with people, and like all this stuff, just suddenly was like, oh, that's what that is. And it was really, um, yeah, it was like this relief of like, oh, now I know what it is. But it also, I think, was really tough because, I think for a lot of my life, I knew this thing was off about myself, but I was like, oh, if I can figure out what it is, I can fix it. But when I learned that it was autism, it was like, oh no, this is just what I am, and that was really hard to 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 come to terms with. Um, and I didn't really tell people. I mean, I told my wife at the time. I told my family because they wanted to know about it, or they didn't want to know about it. They I wanted to talk to them about it because one of the things that is recommended when you're trying to figure out if you have autism is like talk to your family about what they think. And yeah, my mom was like, "Yeah, we thought you probably had it, but we didn't." At the time, like there was a lot of stigma around having autism, and so I think she was afraid to get me diagnosed because that might actually limit my opportunities. And I think maybe she made the right choice because I don't know if like I would have gotten as far as I have in my life had I been diagnosed with autism. I think at the time it was, yeah, because it was heavily stigmatized. It might have, yeah, I might have not been able, like I might have been held back by it more than getting help. But it did also mean that I struggled a lot. Mostly socially, but also academically. I had a hard time in school. Um, and one of the things that, yeah, was really challenging was initially I was like, school was really easy for me at the beginning initially. Um, and so I didn't develop any good habits around like studying or doing things to help make sure I learned things properly. I just did them and I was good at them at first. And then it wasn't until, we got to like, middle school and then high school that it suddenly was like, oh, I actually have to like put effort into this, to like be good at it. And that, I think my grades kind of started to decline, but I don't want to talk about my education so much. I want to focus more on like the autism, because yeah, one of the things so the first thing that really jumped out at me was a lot of people, or a lot of the sources I was looking at were saying that a major trait of autism is eye contact. And that really hit home because I struggle with autism a lot, I struggle with eye contact a lot, and it really. So I remember this point when I was younger where I learned that, people would say like, "Oh, if someone doesn't make eye contact with you, it means they're lying." And that freaked me out so much because I was like, I know I have a hard time with eye contact. Does that mean everyone thinks I'm lying to them all the time? And I got really stressed out about it. And I started, trying to make more eye contact, but it was really difficult. But I did learn some strategies. So I learned to oh, if I have to listen to someone for a long time, looking at them face to face, I can look at their nose. And that's enough that they won't realize I'm not really looking at them or looking them in the eyes. And then I also learned for emphasis, I can make eye contact for I can know the thing that I'm going to say, make eye contact and say it. And that has a lot of weight for people. Like, I think people like subconsciously register that as like, oh, you really mean that because you like looked at me and said it. Um, and I think that works pretty good. But yeah, it is still a constant struggle for me. Yeah, and I actually had, and I know, probably know you can notice that I'm not looking at the camera. Maybe it would be easier if I could see myself. Then I just realized that I probably could just, because the problem is I'm looking away because I'm looking at myself, and I can't even make eye contact with myself for long periods of time. So that's making me look away a lot. But I realize, I don't actually have to look at me while I'm doing this. I like to see me because I like to know what I'm doing, but maybe I can move me to somewhere else, but I can glance over at me occasionally. But yeah, I don't actually have to, I can make better eye contact with you, knowing that I'm not looking at myself or someone else's face. I need to stop feeling about that. So that's another trait. Well, I think I might also have ADD as well, because that's common for those things to come together. But I feel like a lot of times if I'm sitting not doing something, I need to be fidgeting. I like to be fidgeting with something. So I have this little cube here, and it like folds. It's called like an infinity cube, and I can fold it different, and I can fold it forever. It's really great. It's also kind of noisy. So yeah, people hear the clicky clacking because my microphone's really good. It also is kind of heavy, and if I do it for a long time, it starts to hurt my hand because I think my hands my muscles start to get tired. So I have to be careful about how much I fidget with it. But yeah, that is. I went on a tangent, but what I was talking about was traits of autism. So one of them. So yeah, eye contact was huge. And just struggling with social situations. I still can't put my finger on what social challenges I have, but I know that I do have those challenges in social situations. I never was invited to stuff. When I was a kid, I wasn't I didn't go to a lot of parties and didn't have a ton of friends. I think my closest friends were usually my parents' friends' kids, and it was just because my mom was always hanging out with her friends, and they had kids, and so I hung out with those kids. Yeah, making friends was always kind of a challenge for me. I think it still is a challenge for me, if I'm being 100% honest. I think, so that's a trait. I think, the one trait I thought for a while, I was like, I don't have that. I don't do stimming. Stimming is for your, a lot of people flap their arms or they do different things. I think my fidgeting maybe is that kind of. But one thing I know I do when I'm really when I'm feeling a lot of emotions, and so that can be really positive or really negative. If I'm really happy or I'm really upset about something, I pace, and I pace a lot, and I like to pace in a circle if I can, and I get kind of obsessive about the path that I take. It's I didn't realize, it was strange, it wasn't until I was looking up these things that I realized that I do it, and how often I do it. I do it at least usually once a day. We'll start pacing, and I'll just get up and I'll start walking around my apartment. And I don't really have a place where I can walk in a circle here, and that kind of bugs me. but I still kind of I'll just go in each room, come in and out, and go back and forth while I'm thinking about stuff. And I also kind of realized that I do it. I won't do it if people are around. I know that it's weird. like subconsciously, I've never thought about it, but like, or I didn't think about it, but subconsciously, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I just start doing it, or like I know that like doing it around people, even around my wife and my son. Um, I just wouldn't do it around them without even thinking about it. And I realized like, oh yeah, I just have been hiding that from everybody. But it is something I do a lot. Um, uh, but yeah, so stimming. So a lot of people on the spectrum have sensory issues. A lot of people that I've heard online, it's like are like like skin and and like smells. But that's not as big for me. Well, I do really dislike the feeling of like any kind of slimy anything on me. But I don't know if that's just how people are, but like even like lotion or like sunscreen or soap, like it just really feels unpleasant on my skin. I do it because I know I should, but yeah, I really don't like it. Um, and uh, uh, but bigger for me is actually um, light. I'm really sensitive to bright light, um, and actually to the point where so I have these glasses that are actually um, transition lenses that I got, and they were like life changing. Like I couldn't believe how miserable like how I like avoided going out because I like couldn't deal with the level of sun sometimes. Um, and yeah, and like I had, because these are obviously prescription. I had prescription sunglasses, but I wouldn't always remember to have that. I wouldn't always remember to bring them or whatever. And then it's awkward swapping glasses. And so yeah, I wouldn't have them. But yeah, I mean, even just when I first bought prescription sunglasses, that was also kind of a big deal for me. I was like, wow, I can deal with being outside in bright sunlight, and it's not a big deal for me. But yeah, I'm really sensitive to light. Um, and yeah, my mom will tell you like I my room was always dark. I didn't like I always had the shades drawn, and yeah, I liked it that way. Not to say that I don't like being in the sun. I like sun sometimes. It can be a lot for my eyes sometimes as well. Um, yeah, so those are like the major traits that I think about when I think about how my autism manifests. Um, I think I'll stop there for now. I'm just trying to get in the habit of talking about my experiences because I think it'll help me kind of reflect and find ways to I don't know, improve my life. Yeah, thanks for watching.